hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us on our final session of AfroLatine Superfriends Playwriting Hour. It's such a gift to be in the space here. Thank you so much for everyone who's been watching and joining and hopping in and out of each of these series. It's meant a lot to us. So thank you so much for being in the space with us. Thank you for those of you who are in the space right now and entering the space. Thank you so much. It's really exciting again to be in this space with all of you. I want to acknowledge a couple things. First, I'd like to acknowledge that I am on the presence of the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. It's very important for me to acknowledge that every single beginning at the top of our sessions. And so I want to acknowledge the space that I am in. Our presenters are in multiple different spaces, but I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. I also want to bring to everyone's attention that we still have our writers on strike, and we're going, I think, on week 8 or week 9 of the strike. So if there's any way that y'all can join, y'all can help, it is really important. Some of the playwrights who have joined us are a part of WGA, and so it's really important, again, to support them in any way, form, shape, or matter. Also, our actors are going to be might be going on strike as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the next couple weeks, or who knows, couple months, as this continues to develop. I also want to acknowledge the folks that are in the space with us. Tanya and Dresden, thank you so much for being our ASL interpreters, and Wyatt for doing our captions today. And so with that said, I'm going to pass the baton over to Adrienne. Adrienne, thank you so much for being in the space for us. Thank you for closing the space for us. I'm going to put your bio in our little chat. And again, take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No pressure to be the final one here. But no, I mean, anytime you get an email from like an email invite from Daphne, just be aware that it's going to be something really cool and interesting. And then the problem becomes, how do I say yes? Because I know I'm going to want to say yes. And I'm in this like weird in-between area of my life right now. Speaking of the strike, I just joined the guild in April, so we started in May. So it's great to be in, but also what a time to like graduate from your MFA in theater, which was partially on Zoom in a pandemic, to a strike. You know, I'm in this really weird space, so I have a lot of time is what I'm saying. I have a lot of time, and I'm sitting here in Arkansas trying to figure out my life and save money and figure out what's next. And so this was a really generous invite. I'm happy to be here and dust off some old PowerPoints. So that's what I have for you today. I have a little bit of a craft talk around my thesis. It's really fresh for me. The research is still in my head, so I figured I would start us there. Then I'll move us into a 10-minute writing prompt exercise around adaptation. And then we'll close out with just some time just to talk. If there's responses from the exercise or things you want to ask me or talk about, we'll just leave it wide open. And if people are shy, Daphne and I can just fill that time catching up. So that's the plan. Give me 1 second. Let me pull my PowerPoint over to the main screen here. And once I am sharing, I will not be able to see the chat. So I'll just ask my friends to let me just holler at me, unmute if I need to know anything. 1 second here. Okay. Sharing sound, very important. All right. So hopefully you can see my screen here. Loop. I'm going to move all my windows around. It'll take a second to load. All right. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yes. I see nodding heads. Yes. Okay. Thumbs up. Great. Thank you. All right. So this talk is about adapting my Golden Age Commedia. So my thesis production, my thesis project was, oops, I'm already going way too fast. I'm very nervous. I'm very excited to be here. Let's go back one more. So I did an adaptation of Lope de Vega's play El Perro del Hortelano, or in English, Dog in the Manger. And my adaptation was This Bitch, Esta Sangre Quiero. So I thought I would share a bit about that process, and we can kind of talk about strategies of that adaptation. So if you are unfamiliar with Lope de Vega's work, don't worry, I was as well. I was completely in the dark despite years of very expensive theater training and very expensive comedy training as a comedian. So I came in to learn about Lope de Vega through a graduate Spanish literature class. And even though I'm not really fluent in even like Spanglish, I know when I read a really funny play. And this play made me laugh out loud. It's over 400 years old, and I just immediately latched in. I have the synopsis, just sort of a snapshot of what the original play's like summary would be, and I'll go ahead and read that out loud just for accessibility. So Diana, who is the Countess of Bellfleur, is in love with Teodoro, her lowly born secretary. And though decorum will not allow her to marry him, Diana is driven by jealousy to separate him from his fiancée Marcela, one of her ladies in waiting. Dodging a wild murder plot by Diana's wealthy suitors Ricardo and her cousin Federico, Teodoro's lackey Tristan devises a plan to pass Teodoro off as the long-lost son of Count Ludovico. And with this newfound status, Teodoro can now wed Diana. And not only did I find this play just super hilarious and also have this like initial reaction of why is it just now that I'm learning about this guy? I also was really struck by the depictions of women and this not only this one play, Dog in the Manger, but in many of Lope de Vega's work. It was not what I was expecting of that time period to see women who are so funny and smart and full of agency. So that was something I immediately latched onto. My adaptation, as I mentioned, the title, This Bitch, Esta Sangre Quiero, the Sangre Quiero part comes directly from the original text. So in the original play, there's a moment, Diana is very violent and cruel and a harsh bad bitch. And she gets in an argument with Teodoro. She punches him in the nose, deflowering his nose is what he says. And then because she's a little freak, she wants to keep the bloody handkerchief to like hold this piece of him. So the Esta Sangre Quiero comes from the original text. And then the This Bitch part of the title is obviously pointing to our modern day connotations of strong, powerful women and femme people. We have oftentimes a very positive connotation of that, right? She's that bitch, girl boss this bitch. But then also, as we all or maybe are aware of or have experienced, is that there can be very negative connotations with the word bitch and with that sort of femme power. It can be seen as being masculine and then therefore monstrous. And the original play, it's interesting, the original play makes a lot of masculine references to Diana that were things that I wanted to latch on. And so there's moments in my play where Diana asserts that she's the daddy, she's not the mommy, things like that, where she tries to get the male characters to top her. So there are these like really specific references that all come from the original. I would say I have a very, very raunchy, very faithful adaptation in that regard. So let me read the synopsis for accessibility. When Diana, a ruthless and power-hungry Pilates influencer, learns that her social media manager, Teodoro, is hooking up with her makeup artist, Ma de Anusa, who is Marcela, it sparks bitter jealousy. And even though it'd be social suicide for her to date someone with 0 followers, Diana finds herself falling madly in love. But if she can't have Teodoro, no one can. Oh, and there's some images. Let me shout out to Ana Miramontes in the top corner. She is just graduating from my program. New York City, you're about to get an incredible bilingual actress. And then the bottom, I have Gabe Franco Cull, who played Teodoro. And then in the corner there as well is Trey Smith, who plays Tristan, who's the best friend of Teodoro. These are images from my thesis workshop. So some of the things that I changed and adapted, just a snapshot of what is changed from the original. Obviously, I wanted to bring this into a modern day context. The original play being set, I believe, in Italy many, many years ago. I wanted mine to be on the beaches of Tulum, Mexico in December 2019. That time and date and place, very, very specific. Some other things that were translated for me, this is a palace comedy, of course. We have the noble characters who could not could not be with a servant. This is a time period where that hierarchy is very strict. And so instead of this idea of honor in the classical sense, it becomes transformed into our modern day social media clout. Who has a blue check? Who doesn't? It's really rare in our time and day that people won't consider a sexual partner or romantic partner because of class and status, but it's not inexistent. It's still here today. And this was just an immediate, it was like the first idea I had with social media influencers. And quite honestly, because it was the first idea, I thought it might not be right. And I was like, are they venture capitalists? Like, what's the deal? There's a hierarchy here. And then I kind of just circled back to social media because there were a lot of other fun treats for me to play with. We have obviously the nobility becomes translated into celebrity. We are a very celebrity obsessed culture, particularly the younger generation. This is a very young play. Most of the characters are in their 20s. Something else that got changed in my adaptation. So Madeunusa in my play is is a version of Marcella, who is the other girl. She's the first girlfriend of Teodoro. And the original play really discards her. At the end, we're supposed to be rooting for Diana and Teodoro to get together. That's the whole deal, right? But, and they do in my play, just like the original, but in the original, she just kind of is shoved together with another servant. And it's like, okay, Marcella, I know you love Teodoro. Here's this other servant, Fabio, y'all go be a couple so our main characters can be together. And I always thought I was like, Lope, what's the deal, man? Like all Marcella did was love Teodoro. Like she's not book smart, she's not of nobility, but all she did was love him. Why are we going to trash on her? So I really wanted justice for our Madeunusa. I love this character so much, if you can't tell. And so I really wanted to build in a really, really awesome love story. So there's a reason for her to be with Fabio, who is another servant. He plays the bodyguard of Diana's entourage. So that was really important to me in my translation or my adaptation. I added in 2 characters. I should tell you, the original cast is humongous. It's like 15, 16 people. I got that down to 11 and it can be doubled down to 9. But 2 characters that I added in were Alma and Olmo, and they kind of absorb all of the servant, like, in a classical play, someone will run on and go, I have a message for the king. Like they kind of absorbed all of that. They are the lowest of the low status in this world of hierarchy. And I would say they're also the most grounded characters. They also have this weird kind of echoing or mirroring of Diana and Teodoro, because Alma, who is bilingual, works inside of the hotel. She's a hotel concierge member. And so she has a certain status because she's indoors and in a uniform. She gets to interact with these big famous celebrity clients and stuff. She's also at their whim, which, drives her nuts privately. And then Olmo is a seasonal worker. So he's not from Tulum originally. He comes up every season to work and clear away all of the seaweed from the beach. Olmo is, out in the heat. He's working, he's not really paid very well. And he is at the end of his time there. Like he's really fed up with being treated like shit. And meanwhile, Alma's in her point where she might be made a manager. So we already have this sort of difference going on between them. But unlike Diana and Teodoro, they're much more open to being together. It's just sort of a seasonal kind of thing that's going on between them. Another thing about them is they only speak Spanish to each other. And so in a way, the script is privileging a Spanish-speaking audience. If you speak Spanish, you'll really be able to understand exactly what is going on between them. But even if not, the idea is, or what I hope is the experience, is that even if you're an English speaker, you can still pick up these two like each other, something's not right. Will they be together or won't they be together? And that's just something I really was excited about. Their characters at the fringe of our attention. They know that they're not nobility and they're not trying to be the focus, but there's some interesting ways that they come in and out of the audience focus. There's also this crazy murder plot that happens, and that comes in from the original. People, I've had audience members I've interacted with who've been like, what is up with this murder shit? And it comes from the original play. In the original play, Diana actually has 2 suitors. One is her cousin. And for a very short time, I was like, do I make kissing cousins jokes and do a whole thing like that? But it's just, there's too many characters. It's already humongous. So I focused on making the Marquis Ricardo into this character called Coco Wawa. And if you have ever heard of the children's entertainer Jojo Siwa, here is our here's our direct inspiration. Because each of these noble characters have a servant, I made her mom and manager, Sheila, sort of fulfill that. So they're the ones really driving this murder plot, because Coco really is attracted to Diana, really wants to be with her, but very different than Diana. She is in the closet. She's a queer person and very much lusting after Diana, but Diana's brand, her identity, is all about being out. And so there's where we have some conflict between them. So that's something that got changed. And then finally, just the sort of flimsy constructions around love, romance, and societal hierarchy is something that comes from the original. And it's something that I also play with in my version. And in my version, I just kind of drop a little black cloud at the very end, because the whole time I've told the audience it's December 2019, we're here for New Year's. And it kind of drops out of the, I hope, drops out of the audience's awareness that where we are, what's going on. And at the very final scene, we remember, oh, it's New Year's Eve. They're all excited for the year 2020 to happen. They don't know what's coming. Once I kind of figured out how I wanted to do that, I started to pepper in some other sort of 2020 COVID references. One really strong one, which is like a big womp womp, is Teodoro's best friend, Tristan, is a huge Kobe Bryant fan. He like loves Kobe so much. And he even has a line where he says, Kobe Bryant, you're never going to die. Like, he loves him so much. And so it's just planning in the audience. I mean, you can kind of hear, sometimes you hear the audience groan, or they laugh, or there's like, oh, you know what I mean? Because you realize, like, once January comes around and Kobe Bryant dies, like, this character is going to be devastated because he loves him so much and he talks about him so much. And I think really the process of weaving in those references, by the way, if you are already there, it takes many, many rewrites to be able to go, okay, I'm landing here. How do I work backwards and start planting in seeds? So there's references to hand sanitizer and protective gear. There's all these like little things. So it's in front of the audience, but they forget and we forget. And so I liked that little trick, that little stunt. Playwright stunts. Obviously, this is a project that had a lot of research behind it. A video is going to play, by the way, and the video is muted on purpose so I can talk over it. But just so you can kind of imagine what my desk looked like while I was writing this, I had the original play in Spanish on one part of the desk. I had an English translation. I used Victor Dixon's, this is 1990. He has a very accessible English translation of the script. And then Pilar Miró in the corner there, the video that's playing, that was a film from '96. It's a beautiful, gorgeous period piece, all in Spanish. And the full film is available online if you're interested in watching it. So I would kind of read the scene in Spanish, read the scene in English, watch the scene on the film, and then kind of craft my version of it. So that's kind of how it worked. I'll say the film in particular, a lot of the costume references come from the film. So it's this kind of weird triangle that happened in this particular process. My next slide, if it will let me. Oh, here we go. I was anticipating. I know something's going to be slow. Something's going to be off. Another strategy on the writing desk is really leaning into the social media-ness of this world. A lot of the characters draw inspiration from very real social media people. And how I made the connection between Marcela and Made Anusa is I was reading the original in Spanish, and Marcela at one point says, "Tan necio," and I was like, who does that remind me of from social media? And I realized it reminded me a lot of Rosa, who is a character that the social media influencer, he's the name of Adam Rayoke. He used to become this character. And I'm going to share a clip really quick. I'm going to shut up and show you just a couple seconds of Rosa because she's amazing.
Dude, come here. I had a weird fucking dream with you. You were in it. It was fucking crazy though. Like, well, all we did was smoke or whatever, but like, it was weird to me. Like, I don't know. Cause I wouldn't in real life, you know? Would you? Shut the.
So that's Rosa, and Adam really, I think, really channels for me. It's like the hot Cheetos girl. I knew this girl in middle school. I loved this girl. I feared this girl. Heart of gold, probably like a menace in the classroom, but like her heart is in the right place, and everyone remembers this girl and loves this girl. And so I really thought that this is a way for me. I think me back up. I think as playwrights and comedy writers in particular, we can get used to writing characters that sound like us. And so I really wanted to challenge myself. Both she and Coco Wawa have particular vocal patterns or musicality that's not my natural one. So I was pulling transcripts. I would just watch video after video after video after video of Adam Ray O'Kay playing this character and kind of look and see what were my patterns. How could I try to, in my way, capture that voice? Because with a huge ensemble like this, it's like you've got these different instruments, these different voices. I didn't want two characters to be the same kind of funny. And so this really helped me kind of break free from what are my usual patterns when I write dialogue. So
Come here.
So sorry. Thank you. Okay. So here's just an image of the script, and you can see where I've pulled some of her phrasing. It comes from Adam Ray O'Kay. Some of it's my phrasing. And then I also decided to make this choice to pull directly from the original text, and you can see that in blue in the different font. So the script is weaving in some of the original text as much as it is my own invention. It's on top of each other, and that was just for me a really successful way to bring in a different voice that I might not otherwise have access to. All right, I've done plenty of talking. I don't even know how many minutes that was. In my mind, it was like an hour. I really try to keep it like 10, 20 minutes, but we're gonna go ahead and move into an exercise. And if we have more time for writing or talking, great. But I figured we should just go ahead and get our hands dirty with the material itself and try to do our own adaptation of a Lope de Vega play. So let me share with you, let me set this guy up real quick. I'm gonna grab from social media this celebrity influencer. He goes by the name of Jeremy Fragrance. And if you are not familiar with him, he just does reviews of perfume. And I'm going to let you listen to him. And I will say, as part of the exercise, pay attention to every detail that screams at you about what he says, his mannerisms, anything that you want to latch on to that you think you can use, you think is interesting. Go ahead, capture it in your brain or write it down on the page. This is about 40 seconds of Jeremy Fragrance. Here we go.
And the last one I don't talk so much about is Perry Ellis 360 Red. I love it, man. It's the dildo of the fragrance industry. And yeah, it's not so funny actually. Still don't know how to talk about the topic of masturbating. It's difficult, man. I do it, but I don't come. And you know, it's like if I can be that honest, but it's simply to boost my power type of vibe. All right, ultimately, of course, I want to have a girlfriend and a wife. Turning that girlfriend into a wife and have great kids. So that's Perry Ellis 360 Red.
And that is Jeremy Fragrance. And the
last one I don't talk.
Sorry about that. Let me move to my next slide here. Yeah, no comment. I love him. You know, I love him. There's so much. I'm sure if those of you that are actors, there's so much that you are like, oh my God, this real person really doing this. And now let's jump to, this is a lesser known love comedy by Lope de Vega. This is earlier than Dog in the Manger. And I don't actually know this play well. That's why I wanted to pick it, because it's not something immediately in my wheelhouse. But in English, A Wild Night in Toledo is a play. It takes place almost entirely inside an inn in Toledo, a Spanish city where roads and paths cross, and where a multitude of characters of different ages, classes, genders, and regions of Spain come to mingle and make love from dusk till dawn. If they have come to rest, they are in the wrong place. Their passions, jealousies, and desires, their trickery, greed, and run-ins with the law will not allow them to sleep a wink during this one wild night. The play depicts a lively group of characters who run, jump, hide, and fight throughout the night in the name of love. And to set up this scene, as the first act opens, these two characters, Florencio and Beltran, have just arrived to Toledo. Florencio is the romantic and sensitive. He's quick to fall in love with pretty women. His friend Beltran is kind of an opposite. He's materialistic, pragmatic, chronically self-interested, and never moved by sentimentality. So Florencio is the big softy, believes in love and romance. Beltran is like, I need to see it to believe it type. So we have this opening scene between the two of them. We have in our head Jeremy Fragrance. And if you're already there, our experiment today, our exercise today is to try to airdrop these guys in the same space. So let me see the order of my slides here. So I will ask Daphne or one of our helpers behind the scenes to drop into the chat. There's a handout. It should open up a Google document that will have all this text available to you. We'll take about 10 minutes. And the exercise is, let's try to airdrop Jeremy Fragrance into a wild night in Toledo in this little scene. I believe it's Act 1, Scene 2. Or option, you can send Florencio and or Beltran to Fragrance TikTok. What would it be if they were like fragrance influencers? If there's any other version of this that you would like to try, please feel free. So again, we're trying to airdrop Jeremy Fragrance into this Lope de Vega scene, or try to send these two characters forward in time into our modern day influencer. I'm going to put 10 minutes on the clock. I'm going to shut up and probably turn off my camera, and we'll join each other again in about 10 minutes. Cool? All right, here we go.
Thank you.
Hey folks, one more minute. Folks, let me pause that and oops, not again. So let me go ahead and unshare the screen so we can look at each other, talk to each other. Really curious to hear from anyone that would like to talk about their experience of that experiment, things you noticed about the classical text, the TikTok video, really anything. Let's start there and then we'll do some Q&A. And feel free to unmute or raise your hand. I'm not sure how it works on our end, but would love some feedback about that exercise.
Whoever would like to share, you are more than welcome to share. Again, this is a brainstorm space. There are no right or wrong answers. It's whatever anyone feels excited to share, or any revelations, or any, anything of that sort. Do we have any courageous souls? I might call on someone. Let's see.
Yes, you're welcome to. We can also vamp and just talk, and just like talk ourselves, but also I'm happy if we're like, no, that was just an exercise for me. No one gets to see this. That's fine too. And if you're just looking at this as a video, the handout is going to be posted. It was in the chat link, but I will also make sure that's posted for anyone viewing this after the fact who wants to get their hands dirty.
I mean, I'll start just by sharing. I just think it's so funny to look at the time difference, right? Of how, quote unquote, men spoke, because this is a depiction in a play, right, of how men spoke during a specific time period, and how men speak today, and how it's not that. It's not that.
Yeah, that connections between that. Yeah.
Right. So for me, it was like looking at the connections and quietly laughing, just being like, and then trying to be like, oh, you could definitely look at these. But then at the same time, it's like, how much have we grown or changed or not? Being very sarcastic with that. So that was really interesting. So for me, that was sort of like what I first discovered in looking at this from this sort of standpoint, and then being like, oh yeah, I could blend these two into a character.
That's awesome. Yeah, hopefully hopefully the exercise of adaptation can be really fun and joyful in this way. It can feel like a drag because there's so much research involved, and I'll say that's been a big part of my process, is working with. There are scholars, the way that we have our Shakespeare girlies, fangirlies, we have people for like that for classic Hispanic theater, absolutely. And they're so excited to talk to you. I'm telling you, playwrights, there is gold in them there hills. Like, go to the golden age, go visit UCLA's website where they have translated into English a number of different plays, not just Lope de Vega. They talk about our constructions of identity. They talk about gender, race, class. There are all these things that are super juicy and ripe for adaptation. And it's not overdone. And it is diversifying the canon, which is something we talk about all the time. So I've had a really lovely time just being like, how do I smash these two ideas together and finding these really weird connections that still, it's like we're still all wired to each other, tethered in time and space. And it's been really, really, really fun to drop in. And you can absolutely, I think, find homes for your work if this is something that's interesting and exciting for you.
And y'all will have the support. I'm one of the faculty that's involved in the classics. So now y'all have an in. So, and if, for example, if I don't know something, I can reach out to those. So don't hesitate to reach out to me and be like, oh, I'm really interested in this. I'm really interested in how this works. Or, oh, I'm really curious, because just like Adrienne was saying, I was like, the work of a Siglo del Oro is not taught enough in our universities. It just isn't. And if it is, it's taught in the Spanish department.
That's where I got it. Yeah.
And so I've put the link in the chat for anyone who's interested in taking a look at their website. And you literally have a resource of folks who would be more than willing to sit down and be like, oh my God, and like, so
they get like so excited.
Really excited.
That's like how it happened. So this bitch began its development while we were in lockdown. We were on Zoom first, and I just sent an email out. There's an association for, I want to say, classical Hispanic theater. I forget the exact acronym. I'll have to look it up. It's not fresh, but I just sent an invite. I just said, here, I'm doing this Zoom reading, this little dinky Zoom reading. And I was surprised to have, this is the beginning of the pandemic, so I was surprised to have like 100 people come and log into that reading. I never have 100 people see the first draft being read of anything. And they were so excited because they love Lope, and they love, in particular, Dog in the Manger. One of those scholars ended up becoming my dramaturg in a process. We're still talking and working with each other. There are 2 other scholars who are writing a lot about digital comedias and really devoted to how do we keep this work alive? How do we keep these stories alive? So I think you'll find a lot of support if it's something that's of interest to you. But also these strategies can be used. I mean, whatever you're focused in. I have another play. I like accidentally have written a Comedy of Errors adaptation. That was not my goal, but I have a play called Dupe that is about twins, 2 sets of twins who were dueling. And I found that all of a sudden, it was actually my agent who pointed out the connection of like, oh, you're doing Comedy of Errors. And you can still, that strategy of transcription and trying to mimic on the page a different voice. The research, of course, is really heavy. So I think that those are strategies that don't have to just be used in a golden age context. But yeah, I've really had fun playing in this world. Super, super fun. And I've really only studied Lope de Vega. So I'm excited to continue to expand, because he's obviously not the only writer. There's just like so much sitting there, just waiting for us playwrights to grab and play with and remix and retell. Cool. Well, are there any other, let me ask this, are there any other, we can talk about anything. Anything. It does not have to be about me or my work. It can just be about playwriting. We can talk about the strike. We can talk about anything. Any questions or curiosities or shout outs?
Anyone wants to turn their camera on, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
Let me
see you.
Yes. Yes. Hello, Carl. And has anyone, I'd love to know, has anyone, thank you so much. Has anyone adapted something before or not? Is this something that might interest some of you or that you're curious about? I think that this whole session is really great to learn about adaptation, especially if none of you have ever done this, and like how do you get started and anything of that sort. So if anyone is curious about this work, again, also please feel free to ask Adrienne any questions that y'all might have about, and if y'all have noticed, a lot of places love a lot of theaters love adaptations. They really,
yeah.
really do.
You're telling me, man, it's hard to get anyone to open an email and read your play and consider you and then to like produce you. But in particular, people get like, ooh, adaptation, and ooh, an adaptation of a play I haven't heard of, but a very famous playwright, you know. Lope is huge, just not so much in the United States. So that's the challenge for me. And when I talk to theaters and stuff, is I'm like, hey, this is a big deal. It's just not as big of a deal in certain parts of the US.
I would even say, Adrienne, that this is harder than adapting Shakespeare, especially if Spanish is not your native tongue. You know,
yeah,
because
it's not. Yeah. Here's my shout out is to my translators and a number of the cast very early on in the development. You know, an actor's job is just to read the text. It's not to be a translator. But I've had a lot of really generous actors who, particularly who are from Mexico, who can really point and go, no, this is the word you should use. Olmo, I had one person was like, Olmo wouldn't really talk like this. This is the way Olmo would say it. And in this context, it's so helpful. It's just a gift. It's just volunteering that. So really shout out to the actors the Spanish speaking actors that have been a part of this process, because they've made it really, really easy for me.
And the importance of that, because I remember being in the room with you. We did one of the a workshop for one of the, I think, Austin's Latinx Theater Festival. And I remember, you know, we had Daniel as our dramaturg and I was directing. And I remember being very specific and telling folks and being like, I'd love to, you know, because some actors were like, oh, can you help me with pronunciation? And I said, I would love to, but if I help you with pronunciation, you're going to get a Spanish pronunciation because I was raised in Spain. And which is great if your character, you know, if you want that, but that's not what you wanted from these characters. So being really cognizant that even though I spoke Spanish, because my Spanish is from Spain, but the character that you've adapted is not from Spain, my accent was not the most appropriate accent for these characters or the most appropriate translation for these characters. So that was really interesting, I think, level and really important, because of course I'm sitting there being like, listening to this and being like, oh, but now if there's a part that is coming straight from the text, which you did have, then I can jump in and be like, oh, this is how it would sound if you're using the text from Spain. The Spanish from Spain, but if your characters are in Mexico, right, it is completely different intonation. There's some different words and all of that, and being very cognizant of that too, which is again is like another level. When doing this kind of work and when doing adaptation. And so it's also really important to think about it. But again, you will have so much support because there's so many people who are so interested in this work.
Absolutely.
And because this work is not, and also what a lot of folks don't know is that there are a lot of works from El Siglo del Oro, they were written by women.
Yes.
Like a ton. And so again, something that people aren't thinking about, because it's like late 1500s, early 1600s, and you have work written by women. And a lot of this work has not been translated. So we know of the great Spanish writers like Lope de Vega and a whole bunch of other ones, but they're all men. But we don't know about the women. There's research on them. We know about them. Of course, the one playwright that is often being done and that has had Renaissance is Sor Juana. But it doesn't, you know, there's a lot of other women who have written some really amazing stuff. And so they're literally waiting for folks that want to, like, I mean, 400 years, you know. And folks are literally waiting for them to be translated. So,
keep those stories alive. Yeah.
So are there any questions? I would love to take, you know, we have about 12 minutes. And I'd love for folks to ask any questions that you might have of the session or anything else, like Adrienne said, any questions. And if you don't have a stable connection, you're more than welcome to put those you're more than welcome to put those questions in the chat.
I don't know if you covered this already, but just what's your favorite thing about doing this? Because I'm very attracted to adaptations for a number of reasons. You know, I started when I was teaching kids in high school with getting them to do Shakespeare, and because it's I taught in Jamaica, and they cannot stand this idea of us learning this old white man's language. There's a whole lot of politics there, but we had to teach it because it was on the syllabus. So it was just like always trying to just adapt it to the culture. So Macbeth for me looked like a Don Man type of thing in the ghetto and blah blah blah. But what do you love about it, doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I came into this project because we were assigned to do an adaptation. It just happened that I was in the Spanish literature class, and as soon as I read it, I was like, oh, this is a thing, and this is a thing I can do. But yeah, what was described to me was like, you're helping a story survive. We have to think about what are the stories, who are the storytellers that continue to survive over time and space. we are constantly having this conversation about diversifying that. And it is kind of funny and ironic that, you know, Lope is a white dude from Spain. I mean, so we have the language diversity, but we're not having, what does it mean for me as an American who is both Black and Latina to step into the space, and what are the experiences that I can bring into that? And I'll say that, you know, one of the other sort of points of adaptation for this particular project, diversity was very much at the forefront of my mind. And not only making sure that we had all different kinds of people on stage and that they wouldn't be the only one, but that also that our language diversity, that there was a range. Because I don't know about you, but I've sat in on auditions where I've auditioned myself, and I've seen like the light in Latine actors like completely fade out when they realize, because they're not fluent, there's no way they have a shot at this play, and then they're not going to get to tell a Latina story because of the language barrier. Not everyone, there's a myriad of reasons why people don't speak Spanish or don't speak it well enough to perform on stage. And so I remember before I was even putting together the scene work, I was looking at that cast list and I was going, okay, well, Diana's got to be able to speak Spanish. Theodoro's got to be able to speak Spanish. Alma and Olmo, I knew that they would have this connection entirely in Spanish, but how else can I give some variation to that? So I have a couple of characters. Coco Wawa is one, Mada Anusa is another. They have kind of a Spanglish, like they have a couple of words in Spanish, but it's nothing that they couldn't pick up. They have like beginner Spanish, they'd probably be able to pick it up, and with practice, so it's not too overwhelming. And that was really important. On Mada Anusa's side, it's more like a Cardi B Spanish, like that's just like she can understand some, but she doesn't speak it very well. Coco Wawa, it was left open. It was like really a choice. Coco Wawa, and also in terms of the race of that character, it's wide open. I've seen a white Coco, Black Coco, and I've had a Latina Coco. And they've all those actors have made very different choices. Some have said, she's fluent in Spanish, and so she's going to speak really, really well. Others have said she picked it up as a, you know, that was the actor choices. I'm going to pick this language as a way to woo and seduce the Spanish speaking influencer. So I love being in a position where there can be opportunity and possibility and flexibility with the text. There are some things I'm very precious about, and I'll fight you on, but there's a lot that is just kind of open. It's just kind of like, it's the beauty of our job and our position as the writer is like, we get to invite everybody into our crazy kooky world, and the actors, the designers, the directors, the dramaturgs, they all bring their perspective, these really specific choices, and you're just sitting. You got a treasure trove of really smart people. Hopefully you're in a room, you got a treasure trove of really smart people that can help you make those decisions. So there are some roles where no Spanish is required at all. There's some where, again, like you have to be a native speaker to really pull it off, or really work with a coach. So I tried to keep that, that really flexible. I see a question in the chat here from Esther. It's not only translation, so because it's not only translation, but adaptation, do you find a connection to a story you want to tell and then find a play you could adapt to tell that story? Or do you love a play and then want to adapt it? And no worries about being muted. This is weird to be back on Zoom again, right? It's not my everyday. So I'm also, hi, and thanks for coming on camera. Yeah, I think for this one, it was definitely, I fell in love with the play. I knew I'd have an assignment. Boom, here we go. Yeah, I've been trying to keep a list. I call it my premise game. It's like whenever I come across a premise I think is really interesting, you know, love conquers all is a really stupid basic one that we see interpreted in many, many ways. And so I've been trying to keep a list, a category, an inventory of those things when I see them. A lot of times, actually, I read them, I actually find them more in arts criticism than I do out in the wild. It'll be someone critiquing another piece of art, and I'll go, what would it look like, though, if that was successful? Because that's an interesting premise, because oftentimes critics will say, well, they tried to do this, but they didn't do it. And sometimes I'll come across a premise and go, well, what if I did that successfully? So I've kind of got this like little, and that's kind of what the summer is for me and my down, because I have all this downtime. I'm just kind of like, what are these premises? And then can I graph that onto a classical story? And what are the classical stories that I might, you know, I in particular, my aesthetic, my vibe, I'm looking for something we haven't seen. I'm looking for the things that are lesser adapted. There's a part of me that's interested in adapting Chekhov, for example, but I don't want to do the shit that everyone's always doing over and over and over again. I want to do something different. So yeah, then you're trying to like figure out how can I grasp things in that way. So I'll say for me, it goes both ways. I think for a lot of people, it maybe is that the play is what grabs them first. But sometimes you get a commission, and there are some companies that specifically have opportunities for emerging and mid-career playwrights, and they want you to be adapting something. So look out for those opportunities, because usually they come with money, which can help support you as an artist. But then also sometimes you have an institution to help pay for translators, help pay for a dramaturg. When you don't have those things and you're adapting, I have another play that's an adaptation. I've been paying for a lot of that translation consultation out of pocket. And that gets expensive when you're also, working. And, I don't live solely off of, I definitely don't live off of, I pay for my groceries with the money I make as a playwright. And I have to teach. And I just got in the door of TV writing at the very cusp of the strike. So hopefully that'll continue to be an avenue for me, but we'll see. That's a great question. Thank you, Esther.
I just added in the chat the Golden Tongues performance series. How been a couple theaters. I know here Playwrights Arena here in LA has commissioned writers. I know this is really big for Playwrights Arena. They've been doing this for a couple years, and they've partnered with Diversifying the Classics. And I can ask John if there's going to be a next one. But he's done this for a couple years now, where he has literally commissioned writers, and usually it's like 3 different writers, and then they get to present their work at the Latine festival. And so I got to talk about that work, and we got to hear those pieces that had been. And again, what was really exciting is we had a plethora of BIPOC writers adapting this work.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And adapting it sometimes specifically to their cultures and their stories. And so that's been really exciting to see, and to get to hear some of these stories. And then they exist, they're out there. And so know that there are spaces that, might commission you to, and then you get some funding or some money. And then there's also particular grants. Like I know here in California and LA, there's certain grants that you can be applying to that could help you. Because you're absolutely right. I know that folks at the Diversifying the Classics are really open to working with people, and it's not about like pay me. It's more about like, let's do this, and they get so excited. But of course, we want to pay all artists at all time, and we all want to get paid, but we also know how it is. But some of us will literally do this because we love it, and we just get so excited. We're like, yes, I will work with you, and let's make this.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up that. I had that on I have a little cheat sheet of like things I should remember to say out loud. But yeah, their festival, and you can attend just as an audience member. You don't have to be Latine to be involved, obviously, in that project. But it's really great. It's some really cool people. They bring in companies. Also, they had a company from Spain that was performing there. I think it's all free too, or at least the stuff I went to was free. So if you're in LA, especially LA-based playwrights, it's a really great treasure trove. And those of us not in LA or not in LA yet, we got to figure out other ways. But I think there's one in New York as well. I know that Diversifying the Classics has also worked, I think, with El Repertorio Español. And they have done a festival as well. So there are opportunities. We have about 2 more minutes. Is there any dire questions that anyone has in the space that they would like to ask? All right. Easy peasy.
Yay. Well, again, thank you so much, everyone, for being in the space. This was our last session until who knows when. Maybe we'll come up with another session. But I just wanted to thank everyone for coming into the space, for being here in the space, for sharing the space, for participating in the space, all of those things. I know some of you have come in and out, in and out, in and out. But thank you so much. Really, I really, really appreciate it. It's been an incredible experience. Of course, Adrienne, thank you so much for closing this off and for bringing this information to us. So incredibly helpful. I also want to acknowledge Dresden and Tanya for being our ASL interpreters, and Wyatt also. And then behind the scenes, Thea has been helping put all of this together from HowlRound and managing everything from behind the scenes. And I also want to thank you so much for everything that you've done. And so again, thank you everyone for being in the space. And if you haven't watched any of the other videos, or if you missed a video, they are all You can watch them. They've all been archived. We're hoping to write an article about these and how we can use these videos in the classroom so that they can be taught. And so there's more to come from this work, but just really grateful to everyone for being in the space and just learning and sharing. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Adrienne. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.